This week has been really positively overwhelming for me because I've been getting tons of emails of people saying that they've got an invite to interview at Oxford or Cambridge. And it's this time of year that I'm really grateful for my job as an educational consultant because I feel every success. Every student that I've helped coach, every student who's taken one of my classes, every student that gets a positive outcome, gets a result. And I would say an invite to interview is a top-notch result. It means you've gone through the entrance exam positively. It means your personal statement's good. It means everything else is in order. Now it's just the last stage. If you've got to that stage, that's great, and I really feel it. And there's been a lot of success stories this year, and I know by the end of the year there's going to be a lot of people who've actually got into these top institutions. Unfortunately, with all the good comes a little bit of negative. And yes, there are some students who unfortunately didn't get an invite to interview, which actually is a huge shame, because if I consult with somebody, I'm not talking specifically about the actual video courses because they're open to pretty much everybody, but if I consult face-to-face over Skype and actually interact with someone, I've sort of vetted them and I've chosen appropriate people. I've chosen people who have a fighting chance. I turn down people who I don't think have a strong chance of getting in to Oxford or Cambridge, which makes it all the more painful for me when I hear people say, I didn't get an invite. It really is a case of bad luck. They told us that once we got through the interview for English at Oxford, for every person sitting there that got through successfully, there were 4 people who could have been in the same place as you. That means everything was the same. That means you weren't better than at least 4 other people. You were exactly the same. What does that mean? That means you should be quite humble, because it means all that stood between you and a few other people was pure luck. An arbitrary choice, and the luck was on your side. And I don't know what that is for other subjects. I don't know what that is pre-interview. I would assume that it's actually quite higher pre-interview. So if you didn't get an invite to interview, your luck was from a bigger pool of people. I think if you're going through the application for Oxford and Cambridge and you didn't get through first time around, you have every possibility in the world to go and try again if you so choose, because people do this. I've known many people, many of my friends would have tried 3 times before they finally got in, and they got in. But what I want to say is, this is something that you don't really see people talking about. You see everybody celebrating the success, I got in, and then if you see videos of people who got rejected, they're crying and they're moaning and stuff. But what I really want to say is, we're calling it bad luck, but really, this could be the best thing that ever happened to you if you did not get an invite to interview. A question that I usually begin my consultation sessions with, actually I always began it many years ago, I don't always begin it this time, but the question that I always start with is, do you really want to go to Oxford? Do you really want to go to Cambridge? And people look at me like I'm crazy, and that craziness is born out of innocence. You don't know what it's like. A study by, I think, Malcolm Gladwell, he talked about it in one of his books, I believe David and Goliath. He found that people who went to Harvard were disproportionately depressed, unhappy, and unable to succeed, whereas people who had the potential to go to Harvard but turned Harvard down for a smaller school were happier in the long run. Having studied at Oxford myself, having known hundreds of people who have studied there, many would corroborate this. Obviously, everybody's story is a little bit different. You are bound to find somebody who had the most amazing time at Oxford. But if somebody said, did you have a good time at Oxford? I would honestly say that it was very much a mixed bag. I couldn't say it was a good time. I couldn't say it was a happy time. Were there good times? And were there happy times? Yes, naturally. But I would say, if we're following the 80-20 rule, 80% of the time wasn't that good. It is only in Oxford that I first began to doubt my intellect. Suddenly, from out of nowhere, I became intellectually insecure, constantly questioning myself when I never did before. By the time you get through Oxford, you've gone through a journey that can be so painful that some students with probably pre-existing mental health conditions take their lives. I know several who did. And this is something that people don't really talk about. People don't talk about the mental health issues that are rampant throughout Oxford and Cambridge. People rusticate, they take a year off. This is very, very common. People get to the end of first year and go, nah. Or they get to the midway through to second year and go, nah. People push you to take a year off, to take a couple of years off, to go get your head together and come back. Because it's very, very high stress. As an environment, it's one of the most high stress in the world, which, okay, makes sense if you think about it. If somebody says, do you think it would be stressful studying at Oxford? You wouldn't say no. Your gut reaction would say, well, yes. Is that stress beneficial for you? We do know from studies that there is a thing called eustress, where short, sharp periods of concentrated stress are good for you. But when you're studying at institutions like Oxford and Cambridge, the danger is that it can be chronic, systemic, everlasting, and it can just be spread out. You can be in a constant state of anxiety, a constant state of doubt and fear, a constant state of unhappiness, really. So again, people think it's weird that I talk about this because they say, well, you're working for the university, aren't you? People seem to think I work for the university. I don't. I'm an educational consultant, and I'm very good at getting people into the university they want to get into. I'm very good at getting people the career that they want to get into. That's my skill. I've harnessed it over many, many years. I'm not working or getting behind a particular institution. I'm telling it how it is, and a lot of people who've been through the ringer don't tell it how it is, and a lot of people who work there don't tell it how it is. The fact is, you want to ask yourself, do you really want to go? Now, when I was applying for universities, Oxford gave me the worst impression. It did not give me the number one impression. I remember going to the campus at York University. I remember going to Warwick and look at the creative writing programme. I liked the feel of those universities. I got to Oxford and it felt like all-consuming loneliness. Okay, it wasn't me, this wasn't something I brought to Oxford. People might say, oh, there's something you brought to Oxford. Like when you talk about the mental health issues, people say, oh, is it a chicken or an egg? Are people so brilliant and such geniuses that they suffer from mental health and they bring it there? I don't believe it is. I don't believe it is, because those same people would be happy as Larry if they were somebody somewhere else. So you've got to make a decision if that's right for you. And I think in today's world, it's becoming increasingly less right for a lot of people. And people said to me, I remember when I was saying, I don't really like the feel of Oxford. People say you don't turn down Oxford. Which is kind of true. You can see where they're coming from. There's a brand name. If you say Oxford, you say Cambridge, you say Harvard, you say any of the Ivy Leagues, it comes with that sticker, that stamp of approval. It's quite a nice name to say. But we're living in a world today where there are a lot of nice names. And not only are there a lot of nice names and a lot of nice pieces of paper you can have and a lot of great places giving you an education, but we're living in a world where increasingly those names are having less and less value, but you're paying more for them. Now, if we were in the 70s, 80s, 90s, yeah, sure, Oxford would have a strong eclat. It would really fill you with esteem and it would be self-consciously elitist. People would know this. But now, every single year, tuition fees double, triple. I mean, I don't even want to talk about what they are this year. I don't want to talk about what they are for international students who form the backbone of any university. They're disgustingly high. And regardless of what university you go to, most of the time, unless you benefit from some sort of program or some sort of scholarship, you're shackled to debt that you might never pay off. And that's a thing. People are becoming increasingly aware that students are getting shafted. They're getting kind of duped. I mean, I don't know what world we're living in, where you take a bunch of teenagers, 16, 17, 18, who are just fresh out of, let's be honest, secondary school. They're still children in their minds. I know at this age you probably don't feel like a child, but believe me, as someone who's there, who talks to people of this age all the time, you haven't developed yet, and this is a scientific fact. Your brain doesn't develop fully until you're 25. You pre-25 and post-25 are two very different ages, and you won't know until you get there. The benefits of youth are energy, but that energy can be wild and directionless, and you'll pine for that energy when you get to 30, but you will have more stability and direction. But what I'm saying is they take these kids who don't know any better, and that's not their fault. You just don't know, because your only experience of life, unless you're, let's be honest, unfortunate and had a hard upbringing, your only experience of life is school and your parents and your family and your friends. You haven't really been mucked about too much until this year. And they tell you to take out all this debt, yeah? And they tell you, and this is debt that you can't declare bankruptcy for, you can't get rid of it, and then they go and put you, nowadays you'll just be in a room in a dorm, in a very, very expensive, bad dorm. Everything will be online. There won't be in-person lectures. Maybe they'll come back, who knows? I'm not going to make any claims or any predictions on that. I think things won't ever go back to normal. Don't listen to anybody who's telling you things will go back to normal. What I'm saying is, we live in an increasingly new, scary, exciting world. You can learn anything you want to learn. It's at your fingertips. Some of the best education in the world is online. Funnily enough, I'm not being hypocritical. That's not a contradiction. It is online because everything's online, but it's not necessarily online with the institutions that once had that powerful brand name. Yes, you will still get a great education at Oxford. But you might, depending on your subject, get a better education somewhere else. When I went to Oxford, English, it was number one in the world. I don't know if it is at the moment, but for other subjects, it certainly wasn't. There are better places to go if you want to do medicine. There are a few better places you might want to go if you want to do law. So it really is dependent. And really at this time, in this locale in history, you want to go throw your chips down at the place that's going to be the best investment for you. And that means where is going to look after you mental health wise, like where are you going to feel like you're in place, where are you going to get the best education, something that enriches you and challenges you, where are you going to get the best career opportunities, where are you going to just feel right. And when I went to Oxford, I just didn't slot in. I didn't feel right. And hey, perhaps a lot of people, whether they admit it or not, also feel like that. But that's something that you don't hear as much with other universities. You do a little bit, but it seems like Oxford and Cambridge is like other university experience on steroids. Like we have an 8-week term, but we do more in that term than some other universities might do in a whole year. It is no wonder that people fall to pieces. Now, that sounds like a huge downer. I'm not disparaging the university, believe it or not. I'm just throwing another opinion, another option into the ring, because it's that time of year where some people are excited they're going to get invites. And I feel your excitement, and I'm very, very happy if you do. But it's that time of year where if some people get an invite, some people won't, and it might not be your fault. It might just be luck of the draw. But remember that everything happens for a reason. I truly believe that. I've been through enough shit at this point where I think everything does happen for a reason, or at least you have to tell yourself that it does. If you don't get the outcome that you wanted, it's definitely not the end of the world. And I believe that if you were even going through the application stage at any point, even considering it, the world is still very much your oyster. You are smart enough, talented enough, capable enough to do anything that you want to do with your life. You just need to be a bit more reflexive and adaptable, because the world is changing and nothing's the end of the world. We make our own destinies. So if you didn't get an interview, don't despair. It's probably a good thing. Thank you for watching.